Hi, my name is Kimberly Mensa, and I will be presenting Responsibility 3. Responsibility 3 is actually my favorite responsibility because it's kind of where the magic happens. This is where you implement your program. So, the job of the health education specialist in Responsibility 3 is to put the program into action. And this is broken down into 3 parts. So we're going to start with 3.1. Before we get to 3.1, these are key terms that is really important to know within Responsibility 3: culture, competence, health literacy, implementation, intervention strategy, learning activities, and targeted message. Now, I actually want to add to this list, alongside targeted message, I want to introduce a tailored message. These are actually 2 distinct terms, and I'm going to explain what they are. A targeted message is when you're trying to reach a subgroup or a general population based on demographics. So let's say I'm trying to create a program and I'm targeting teenage Hispanic males. A tailored message, on the other hand, is a strategy where you're trying to reach a specific person or a specific group based on unique characteristics. So that's really important to know for the CHES, those 2 definitions. So moving into 3.1, implement the plan of action. Are you ready to implement? This is actually broken down, again, into 4 phases. Phase 1, are your goals and objectives being met? We've spent responsibility 1 and 2, assessing, planning, and doing research. Now, when it's time to implement your program, are those goals and objectives that you've worked so hard to find being met? Phase 2, do you have the proper resources in place? Do you have the right personnel? Do you have enough space? Do you have the right marketing or communications? Do you have goodie bags? Are there refreshments? Everyone loves food. Are your resources there for your program to go? Phase 3 is management. Do you have the right people in place? Do you have enough interns? Do you have enough staff? And do those individuals have the budget and the resources to do their job? Phase 4 is to actually run your program. Are you going to run it as a trial? Are you going to phase it in? Are you going to do a couple of pilots in different locations? Are you going to run it simultaneously to different pilots, or are you going to do it biweekly, monthly, yearly? Then the last way to just do it is just to have your program. Are you going to do it one time? Is it going to be an all-day affair? That is the first part of 3.1. The second part of 3.1 is being culturally competent during your program. Now, what is cultural competency? Making sure that your program is creating an environment for all those who are there to be comfortable. Everyone of different backgrounds that are at your program should be comfortable, feel safe in your program in order to make the most of it. Along with cultural competency is health literacy, which combines, of course, reading and writing and how that affects their health outcome. An important term for the CHES is LEP. LEP stands for Limited English Proficiency. And as a health educator, it's really important that we take that into consideration when creating a program. We must consider different forms of sources of media and different ways to train and engage your target population. So that's the second part of 3.1. The third part of 3.1 is selecting the correct model or theory to help your program. Now, there's dozens of different theories and models. I'm going to discuss 3 that I personally like and are really helpful to know because they're the most used and the most common ones. The first model is the health belief model. This is an individual-based model, and it states kind of that a person is most likely to change a behavior based on how much they're perceived acceptable, perceived severity, so how serious is it if I don't change my behavior, the benefits, perceived benefits, am I going to get compensated if I change my behavior, perceived barriers, do I have to go out of my way to change my behavior, and cues to action and self-efficacy. So those are the main factors of the health belief model. So that's one model. It's a very common one. The second model is the theory of reason action or theory of planned behavior. They go together. This theory states that change in behavior is based on one's attitude towards the outcome. So am I scared of the outcome? Because that might determine whether I'm going to change my behavior. Am I okay with the outcome? It's all right. Then maybe that might be an aspect to me changing my behavior. Part two of the theory of reason action is that change in behavior is also based on the social norms, right? So is my behavior acceptable? If it is, that might not encourage me to change my behavior within my society or my immediate environment. The third theory that I want to talk about is actually one of my favorites. Is the diffusion of innovation theory, right? So this is a community-based theory. It states that, well, it actually breaks down the community into 5 groups, right? So group 1 would be the innovators. These are the ones that will wait outside the Apple store for 5 days waiting for the new iPhone. These are the ones that want to be on the cutting edge, want to be on the forefront. So as a health educator, who are your innovators? Who are the ones that you're going to set in place to kind of get the ball rolling for your program, to get the idea out, to get your cause out, to get your program known and rolling? Then they're the early adopters. There are always a few innovators, and then the early adopters is a little bit of a larger group. Then they're the early majority. Then it breaks it down to the late majority, and then the laggers, the people who kind of wait till it's on sale and then kind of jump on the bandwagon then. So that's the diffusion of innovation theory. Okay, so that's 3.1, right? So now we're going to jump into 3.2. Now your program is rolling, it's happening, you're in the midst of your program. As a health educator, 3.2 directs us to how do we monitor the implementation of our program. So we spent responsibility 1, 2, and early parts of 3 planning out our program. Now, like in real life, not everything we plan for goes necessarily as planned. So, there we go. Not everything that we plan for goes the way we would like it to. So as a health educator, 3.2 tells us that we should be flexible, be able to pivot, be able to monitor our resources within the program. So Wi-Fi is out, what's the plan B? Being able to work with what you have, work with maybe your target population didn't react the way that you thought they would to a program. How do we go from there? Also part of 3.2 is monitoring compliance, legal and ethical principles. So during your program, are you following legal liabilities? So a great example of this is if you have children in your program, do you have parental consent to maybe take pictures or to take footage? Make sure, another thing to be aware of when monitoring our program is following rules and regulations. So following building codes, for example, noise levels, room capacity. These are all things to take into account. And then a very, very important thing to also take into consideration as a health educator is using professionals and licensed individuals when needed. So let's say you're having a program and you're giving medical advice. Well, is it coming from a doctor, an MD? So this is really important in order to be ethical. Right, so that is 3.2. Now 3.3 is about training. So hopefully you're not going at this program alone. You have instructors and professionals that are helping you implement your program. And you might have to train those individuals. In order to do that, well, first you have to select individuals who are also passionate about your program, who are qualified, who kind of have the same qualities as a health educator because they will be helping you put the program together. When it's time to train those individuals, it's important to take into consideration the media that you use to train. Health educators should be very media literate, so simple layout design if need be, website design, CDs, how to utilize the internet, how to utilize YouTube in a training. All these are really important for a health educator to know. And then delivering to professionals is it might be a little different from delivering to your target population. Is it one-on-one? Does the professional or educator you're trying to train prefer a one-on-one kind of training, or a small group training, a seminar, an on-the-job kind of training? So this is also very important to consider in 3.3, which is training. So just to wrap up, Responsibility 3, 3.1, are you ready to go? Are you ready to make your program happen? Are you culturally competent and taking into account health literacy of your target population? And are you following the appropriate model or theory that works for your program? 3.1. 3.2, monitoring. Are you flexible during your program? Are you using the right resources? And are you being compliant to rules and regulations? 3.3, when it comes down to training, are you training your personnel appropriately? Are you using different forms of media? Are you engaging them that way? Thank you.